Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of the Beth of Fresh Air. I was on a stream with Achille Curado yesterday. If you didn't catch part 2 of his interview, really amazing. That was number 400 of my King Hero blog, by the way. And so I forgot to say that. I wanted to say that today. 400 is a lot. You'll notice this is on the King Hero channel. I didn't end up making a new channel for the Beth of Fresh Air, partly because I would have to start over again after losing my last channel, and partly because this is also a King Hero kind of exercise. And today I'm super excited to have Dagmar Stansova back with us, who's been a repeat offender on the Beth of Fresh Air. And we're going to talk about evolving the performing arts. You'll notice how this series and every title of Beth of Fresh Air is a verb. So it's a command, evolve. Trying to do it politely. We're going to talk through the nuances of the performing arts, how they've shaped culture, how they've been an instrument of the divine, and also an instrument of our, the agendas and the things that are showing up as enemies in our life. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Dagmar on. Hello, welcome, Dagmar.
Hello, Beth. I love being a repeat offender on your show.
Very good. That's awesome. It's fun. It's I love seeing how the relationships develop over time. This is one of my things, and not all of the relationships persist through time or endure through time by any stretch of the imagination, and especially since 2020. All of those people that you thought you were related to, and you get to a certain point and realize, oh, you're not my people, and the path narrows as you go. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, and it's also, what is that from the 70s, that expression, a relationship is for a reason or a season or a lifetime? Remember that? So I'm really seeing the lifetime ones and the reason ones and the season ones. But yeah, after 2020, definitely I found that my relationships have shifted. And sometimes they haven't shifted physically, like I'm still connected to some people, but it's a very different connection than it used to be.
Right, exactly. And so you're coming to us. Hello to Quietly Content Bear and Maya in the chat, by the way. Great to have you guys here, and we'll be looking forward to any contributions you have to this discussion. And so you're there in Los Angeles, which is a pretty good setting for today's theme. You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing there?
Yeah, well, I'm just checking in. I haven't been here. I left in 2020, and I'm just checking to see what it's like to live in this new world. And it is a new world. Just unlike the most like blatant physical level, walking, I'm driving my car and opposite me is driving another car that has no driver.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. Seeing like driverless cars all around you. You're going like, I was talking to some friends of mine here. We were talking about how different, and this is part of culture talk too, but how men rarely feel unsafe in the world, and how women pretty much all day long, every day, wherever we go, we're checking physically safe, like physical safety. We're always monitoring, like, when you're walking down the street at night, which I was yesterday, you're always like, whereas a man probably wouldn't be thinking that much of it. Or like, even if you go to a public bathroom, I always would go to the one that's closest to the stall, closest to the door, or have somebody come with me, a girlfriend, let's go to the bathroom together. and I think for men, that just isn't the way it is. And I think that seeing those cars that have no drivers, there's a point to what I'm saying. It makes me feel like I'm not safe in the world, because there's no person in that car to make any human decisions, and that feminine survival brain needs to connect to feel like it's safe. That part of us that wants to know that we can affect the world, like we can influence a man to protect us in case a tiger shows up, or, tiger in the form of a bus, or a murderer or whatever. So seeing this high tech world that we're living in, I guess it's supposed to be convenient and exciting, but it doesn't feel that primal, the reptilian brain in me is going like, like just floating around. And
Right.
you can talk to your devices, and I'm in this very, very modern home where everything is like, wired up. Lights turn on, and the door locks with a code and all of that. So it's like it's a very strange. It's supposed to make you feel more safe, but on that deep level, I don't. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's all good if I could jump in there too. It's interesting because I study the psyche, and especially the difference between the female and the masculine psyche. And it's true, right? They don't necessarily walk down the street with a sense of fear, but they might walk down the street with a sense of fear that's in a different emotion. Like we think of fear to be an emotion, it is, but there's a deeper level of programming that is also a fear thing, but it's not an emotion. It's a blueprint. It's a set of instructions, and so men also walk around all day long in that way, but it'll express differently, maybe as aggression. I also pulled out this card every time I would walk down the street and notice some fear as a say young adult, because our streets are edgy here in Winnipeg. They were edgy back then, as you can imagine, exponentially so now. But I would go right into my aggression, and I would see somebody coming, I'd get a little weird feeling, and I'm like, I'm just gonna kill you if you touch me, kind of thing. Like it would just bring out this whole collie kind of anger. So yeah, fear can show up in a lot of different ways. And just what you're saying about the phenomena of driverless cars, I honestly didn't even believe we would get to that point, but there you are, a firsthand witness of that. And the degree to which I rely on eye contact to have a sense of certainty. Okay, I'm going into traffic. That guy sees me because he looked right in my eyes. And that missing, that would be very unsettling.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So in preparing for this conversation, I had to look at, and I'm sure you've already looked at that too, but just the word culture itself. I mean, it has cult in it, so there's a lot right there. And I was just looking at all the different words that have culture in it, like we have counterculture, we have subculture, we have culture shock, all these words with what else? Cross-cultural, all these, just but the word cult is in there, and which made me think of spelling and spells, that really culture, especially in the performing arts, it's one of the best ways to cast a spell. It really is, because you have the visual, you have the audio, and it's just like when you think of a child in front of a TV, that look they get on their face, it's not one of exuberant joy. It's this look of, it looks happy. It's sort of like the Stepford Wives happy, where they're just kind of looking and they're just like, it's this wide-eyed, which to me also says, openness and shock at the same time. And it's like being lured by the false light of the television, or the false light of Times Square, or the false light of Hollywood lights. It's, so I was just thinking how culture can totally inspire. I should. Can I read like some? I just looked up like the definition of culture.
Sure. And if I could respond to what you said before you go on to another point, that the multimedia really is a different level, right? If you're reading a book now, multimedia maybe still always would happen, right? When you're reading the book, that you are filling in the sounds, you're filling in the images that aren't created necessarily for you. You're turning it into multimedia anyway. And I think this is a very big point of what you didn't use these words, but I'm paraphrasing. Like there's a certain awe when you put a child in front of a movie or anything like that. But we all have likely seen that. It is one of like hypnosis and awe, and like you said, like the big eyes, just taking in and absorbing, and it's very captivating to captures you literally. Just quick hello to Jackie K, who came in the room, and Mr. JJ Hempcrete Bear is here as well. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for coming.
Well, yeah, I venture to say that there is a difference between the written word and the performed or puppet show or something that's right there. Because when you're looking at something and that's beaming an image and a sound at you, it's much more, it's more pushing itself into you. Whereas when you're reading something, and if it's a good writer, not every writing has you fill in all the blanks. Good writing, yes, you'll be able to really recreate the world internally, but it's you entering the writing and you pulling from it to you. So it is a more organic process, the whole reading of something, as opposed to seeing it interpreted through someone else's vision already. So for me, reading is a much softer version of what would we say, hypnosis, spell casting. So I make that distinction. I have a deeper fondness for the art of writing, and I have a great love of filmmaking and performance too. But I'm aware that every time I do that, I'm also seeing it or perceiving it through the lens of that particular artist. So anyway, just
right. Yeah. No, I totally hear you. Absolutely. There's something very different. And it's why that we don't want to, like my son has barely read a book. He was forced to read a book at various times in his English classes and stuff like that. But because of the multimedia culture he's grown up in, then that's not his go-to. And it's hard. I've also found myself wanting to read a book or thinking I should read a book. That would be a better thing to do. And there's various reasons, like my eyes have been destroyed by vitamin A, so it's not nearly as easy to read a book as it used to be, especially in the late hours and not good light and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why like writing isn't really considered a performance art, even though the writer is performing their craft. But the performance art being maybe, is it a theft of your interactive capacity through the imagination? I don't want to call it that, because it's really pointing towards some motive that may or may not be there. But I agree, something very different.
Well, and it can be both. It can be a theft or it can be a great gift. So I think a lot of that depends. Now, this is my personal little niche, like I really believe it's important to know your craft and to have a meta awareness kind of what you're doing as whether you're an actor or a musician or a filmmaker. If the more you know your craft, the more you trust human beings and trust your craft, the more I feel you can deliver something that can be more of a gift. Rather than, but gifts can be also turned upside down. So it's like artists have always been used to push certain ideologies that have nothing to do with art, that have more to do with agendas that benefit the what would you call them, the elite or whoever, I don't know. I don't like to say controllers because I don't like that word. I don't believe that. So it can be used for anything. You can use Michelangelo to promote Christianity, or you can use him to promote promiscuity.
True.
You know,
Yeah,
it all,
exactly.
and the thing is that artists can be, we can be had because most of us, if we depend on our art to make money, like I just a couple of days ago, I actually auditioned for a horror film,
Okay.
you know, and
Right.
because I always turned that down, but I was like, damn it, I need some money, and I'm going, well, this is where you get to see, where I'm willing to, what's the word? Just kind of waver on my beliefs, because I hate horror films, but at the same time, and I'm also terrified of horror films, like even, or just anything. If I go see a normal movie and they start doing some, I'm always like this. I'm just, I can't watch. I don't want those images in my brain. But then I thought, well, maybe it's time, if I ever did a horror movie, I could maybe demystify all of that crap and just see how it's done, and then be able to truly laugh at it, and see how ridiculous it is. And I don't want that ride. I don't want the anxiety cocktail. Personally, I don't feel, that's not where I feel most alive. Even though I get it, I totally get it. When we're in stress or fight or flight or anxiety, all our senses are sharpened, and we feel like we see better, hear better, and we get addicted to that. But I think it's too big a price to pay for that. So, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I'm auditioning for a grandma who eats people's faces.
Okay. Very good. Hey, just again, before we go on, JJ Hempcrete is having a hard time getting notifications. So yeah, I do appreciate any kind of sharing going on around here. It's ridiculous. I don't get my own notifications anymore like I used to. And Emil said, Monsters and Magical Sticks is a great book that might interest you. Do you know that one, Dagmar?
No, I'm writing it down.
Okay. And we have Mr. Alex Michael is in the house. Welcome. He says music canon is a weapon currently. Yes, which turned me off of it. And luckily onto Alex Michael's music, which I also shared recently with Dagmar as good writing music, especially the solfeggio. So yeah. Yeah, and I'll take this moment to say that the House of Free Will has an upcoming event with Mr. Alex Michael. We're going to have a kind of roundtable discussion on creativity. Dagmar has also done a workshop on the writing side of that, and so that'll be good. Elisa said, yes, at least it's not vegetables, Dagmar. The evil, it's eating your face. Eating your face is better than vegetables?
But because somebody who said that,
Eliza.
Oh well, I don't eat vegetables, so
I know.
I haven't for a long time. I don't eat vegetables, but I eat face.
There you go. That's funny. Yeah. Hilarious. Yeah, we actually decided not to do a garden this year. Which is amazing because it was a survival strategy, but none of us eat vegetables anymore because most of us went LYL. So it's like, I'm going to have some free time this summer. What's that going to be like? I don't even know.
Free time and lots of free space in the refrigerator. Now
yeah,
it's so much easier to travel and to pack your food, and it's I feel lighter. It goes well with my gypsy lifestyle.
Exactly. On that note, we're going to be doing, Garrett and I will do the next video on food basics. So people that are hungry for an updated food basics, love your liver style, then that's coming up. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that'll be really good to have out there because everybody asks us. And self-sufficiency is a psyop. You're absolutely 100%. Yeah, what an evil thing that is to implant that as a goal in people's hearts and minds when it's, it's really a killer. True independency means you won't live through it. And you definitely won't have a good experience doing it.
Well, but wouldn't you say, though, that ever since the Industrial Revolution and all of that, self-sufficiency has been built into it. That's the whole point. It's like you have a washing machine, you have a restaurant, you have places where you can pretty much get everything and anything. Now it's just like they come to your door. You don't even have to go to the laundromat. They'll come and pick it up for you and drop it off. So all the things that would create conversation between families and mothers and children and men and women, they're not needed anymore. And I think that, it's I mean, I guess it is you could call it a psyop, or it could just be the devastating end product of constantly wanting more and more free time. So we create all these ways to make life more convenient. And
it's the illusion. It's the illusion of self-sufficiency. There's nothing self-sufficient about any of those scenarios, but you nailed it. What it removed was the interaction.
Yeah. Well, you nailed the illusion. The illusion. It's the illusion of self-sufficiency. When really you then become dependent on Siri. I can't say her name or she'll start talking. We constantly need feedback from another human being. Like when you texted yesterday and you said, I'm feeling chatty. Like, yeah, it's really, we feel the need to just like, just breeze, have an exchange, to feel ourselves, to air ourselves out. And that is one thing that I really do appreciate being in LA. There's way more people and way more variety of people than, in North Carolina. And not to say that there aren't, the people are interesting there, but I have a lot more to talk about with people here in terms of just the arts themselves and this very conversation that we're having. What are the arts? What are we doing? What's the point of it? Who are we doing this for? Why can't we stop? What is that thing? What's the real motivation inside? And I think it all comes down to self-expression and connection, being authentic and being connected to each other. Like, why write a book even, or why make a film? You're not doing it just for yourself.
And you can do it just for yourself, but to me that becomes a much less purposeful creation and maybe void of purpose altogether. It's what I always say, that you can sit and create infinitely in volume in your living room for yourself, but until it's for the benefit of more than just yourself, then it lacks for purpose. And could I interject a quick story before we go right into this? Because it's gonna balloon on it. So really quick, that right now I'm a shut-in. It's sub-zero temperatures. I consider going outside every day. I finally did today, but I'm having less and less interaction. Like, unless my son comes over, it's the dead of winter for us. So so I went out the other day. I had to get bananas, so I had to go outside. It's like, okay, and the parking lot had a sunbeam, so I stopped. I put the bananas in the warmer car, and I was outside. I couldn't just stand there because I would have froze to death. So I danced, and I thought, well, I can't dance without music. So I started singing. And then you could see people kind of noticing and coming around the corner and maybe pointing or laughing at me like I'm some weirdo. We have a lot of weirdos in the neighborhood, so I fit right in. And so that was kind of fun. And then I get in my car to drive. The streets are like this right now. They're ruts of ice, and they're like black ice. So I'm coming down the thankfully right way, where everybody coming at me has to pull over into the parking lane in order to let me pass by. I have the right of the way. But because of the ruts, every single person was spinning their tires and fishtailing in order to get into the parking lane. And but every single one of them was laughing. When I would go by, I'd be like waving at them, and they'd be beaming at me. And there was so much joy in this minuscule amount of interaction, where they couldn't even really, they couldn't hear me, or we weren't 6 feet from each other, but still it was so rich. But by the time I got home, I'm like, well, thank God I needed bananas. That was such an injection. So
So,
one
but
last thing before we go on. One very last thing is happy birthday to Mr. Conspiracy Music Guru. I didn't realize it was his birthday today, so happy birthday, Alex Michael. We won't hurt you by singing that awful song. So,
Beth, there's a good story in that, and the title is "Thank God I Needed Bananas." Write a little short story about that. Just that whole the dancing and that's a great little image moment you have there. That will be
nice.
cool.
Nice.
I wanted to add to something that you were saying before. There is no such thing as a person just creating for themselves. Even if they think they're doing it, at least there's always one person. Or it could, some people just, that's the way that they're relating to God. So I have yet to know, and I know some really reclusive people who just nobody's ever heard of them, and they do beautiful things. But how come I got to hear some of their stuff? Because it's always there. It's that there it's just built in to the arts. I think that need to connect, even if it's invisibly, even if it's tentatively or hidden, or just leaving it to chance. So like, oh, maybe she'll come and look in my closet and she'll open it and she'll find this. And she did. I always find people's closets, if they're like closet creators, and I just can smell it, and I kind of bring it out and I pull it out. And so even if it's just for one person, and sometimes that is a good way to create or to write, that you just write for one person. Like Kurt Vonnegut, he wrote only for his sister who he lost. Every book he's got her in mind. He's writing, to her, for her. So that, I think that's why, culture, what is it? I mean, it's something, it involves change, and it involves reproducing. We have, the petri dish. We have, the way we use the word culture, and cultivate. What is that? It's the tilling of the soil. It's stirring life. But I think that it's just like a physicalization of something that that we love or that we enjoy, and we create institutions from it. I mean, those are some of the definitions of culture. It's like you create a museum is an institution. A theater is an institution. It's a way to make something, to try to bring it, so you want to repeat it because it feels so good. It's just another version of the village around the fire and people hanging out, and the performers, who are usually some kind of intuitives, can feel what's going on in the village, and they will, into the performance or into the puppet show, into the story that they're going to tell, they're going to include something that's going to help people open up and connect to some other meaningful, universal need, like the need for meaning. I mean, that's the whole, I think that's what the performing arts or any arts play for us human beings, is our profound need, the higher need, not just for water, food, and shelter, but the need for meaning and understanding and connection. That's what art can do. Whether you read it in a book or whether you hear one of your songs. Like, your songs are such a great example of connecting to something, to the divine, through another person's experience of it, and the way that you know music and your chord progressions, they create a feeling in me, and they create they fulfill a deep need for me to connect to something that's invisible, and I want to find all the ways that I can do that. And every person has a unique door, opens a different door to connecting to something that is not just for the heck of it. It's a need. It's universal. All human beings, we have all these various levels of needs. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yep, definitely. That's amazing. And so there was, did I say this already recently? Forgive me if I'm just repeating it, but I remember arguing with my father. Yeah, I think it was on another episode of the Beth of Fresh Air about I was studying traditional cultures and anthropology at the time, and I was aggrandizing them that they were better than we are in this modern culture. And my father came back and said, well, but they didn't have the ballet, and they didn't have the symphony, and they didn't have the orchestras, and all of this amazing performance art. And I said, yeah, because they were dancing, because they were singing, because they were actually, doing their art as part of their culture, right? So we've taken this word culture and overlaid it to often the performance arts, or that like high art and fine art that's in a museum or in a gallery or that kind of thing. So do you think there was a point in human evolution? Is this something you've studied or have thoughts about, where there was that flip to performance, where it became one person on stage, many people observing, or it could be a group on stage, but often a much bigger audience than those that would fit on the stage. There could be some logistics going on there. So where do you think in humanity that flip happened?
Yeah, gosh, I wish I'd have to be more of an anthropologist and a historian to be able to connect to find where the moment was. And I imagine that it was probably economical, because when the whole world, let's say a country or a city, and people are hungry and aren't able to take care of the primary human needs, which is, shelter, safety, food, water, and all that, but they still have those higher needs. But who has time? Who has time to sit around? I just even look at my parents' generation. They were survived World War II, and then the rest of their life was survival. That's how they came in, and that's how they kept going.
They literally had to starve themselves of the need for meaning and purpose and connection in order to survive.
Yeah. And part of, I wonder when that spell really sets in, because they did have the opportunity to take a pause and see, and they found ways, because most Europeans, even when they're like surviving or they're professionals, they always have some art form that is part of their life. In America, it's a lot less like that. And I imagine maybe the Asian countries too are more just like, you're a techie, that's what you do. You don't play the violin on the side. But yeah, at a certain point, we can make that choice. But your question is just so intriguing. Like, what world event, or at which point did it happen that people just were too tired and hungry to be pursuing their higher needs, that they were just relieved that somebody else was doing it, and they could go on the stage for a moment and have that moment of awe. I love that word, because to me, that's what it's all about. The awe puts you into a state of like just not knowing. And I think that that's the same reason that churches was successful, because I really do think that the institution of the church, or religious institutions, are playing performing arts, the same role.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you walk into a church or a temple, you cannot help but feel awe, because it's all made bigger. It's beautiful. It's the sound, the way it echoes, and every religion involves some form of music, and some visuals too, and symbols and all that. So I feel like that need always will find a way to be satisfied. It's almost like, sometimes, you think like everything is a psyop. I mean, I kind of think that way too. But sometimes I think, well, maybe it's not really a psyop. It's just our awkward and clumsy ways of trying to get all our needs met. That we have to, like the need for mourning, and ritual and celebration. The need to celebrate is a higher human need. But you're not going to celebrate when you don't have enough food to eat. Some people are capable, but that is a rare individual who can drop into that space. So yeah, it's just I don't know. You have any more thoughts on that?
Just to follow up on the recognition that religion is also a performing art, and
Yeah,
and
please.
for better and for worse, and also like the architecture. How I was listening to this just through the eyes of, her name is Mindy Petchnik, and
Mhm,
she is a conductor, and she likes to show the evolution of culture through Bach music, and
mhm,
how there was a split between the soulful divine music more in the range of the lover archetype, where it
mhm.
really is for the expression of the divine and the connection with the divine and bringing people to a higher mind, if you could call it that. And then is it Dvorak? I'm not really versed in all of these, but the music that dominates and that pounds itself into your consciousness and makes you want to go to war, and really doesn't feed that part, but it feeds something in say the architecture that dominates you in a church, compared to that was, to me, that's sheer agenda right there, to make people feel small and separated from the divine, that it was beyond them, and that they needed this intermediary to do the rituals on their behalf.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm always discovering new thoughts as we speak. I generally would see that and agree with you, but now as I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if it's so much that it's dividing the person, or that the person already was divided from the divine, and that's why they're going to the church to begin with. That's why because I'm
But
thinking that.
weren't they forced? Wasn't that such a big part of the culture, that if you didn't do that, you wouldn't, like, now we can choose, we can just take or leave religion.
Well, but they weren't forced in the beginning. It didn't just suddenly show up and everybody's forced. It started slow. People went of their own free will. We created these things. They didn't just, here we are, we made this, and from now on everybody obey. I mean, I'm just looking at the reality of it. That just doesn't
Mhm.
happen, you know.
Well,
So
okay, but here's the thing. There's always the two things, and this is a major part of what I wanted to cover today. So we're getting right into it, and it's the organic uprising of culture out of the soul and the creative spirit that we're given, and then there's the engineering. There's and very often the engineering comes as a direct result of the organic rising,
what I
right?
was gonna
So with
yeah.
yeah, just to finish the thought, then with that, because you're right, like, people will gather, if you look at the stories of Christ, how nobody forced anybody to follow Christ around and make a church out of this kind of thing. But once the people are going there, and the powers that ought not be recognize, oh, the people and the attention are going there, then they're like, oh, let's funnel off their need to give their attention away, or whatever it is, and it's like hijacking. So,
This is a really fine, very refined and important distinction to make, what you're describing, because it's like, we, the humans, us, we set the stage. Like, let's say somebody makes wine and people taste it and they like it. And they follow, what's his name, Bacchus, the god of wine. They create a god of wine and they follow this and they like it. Then comes in somebody going, I think I'm going to build a winery. Or I'm going to reward people with this. I will make it so that they can only have it at special occasions. And I think I could do, it's like taking that thing. I'm just saying exactly what you're saying, just so that I can process it too. But that to me sounds like the most authentic understanding of how we are where we are now. because it's been, as people like to use that word, weaponized. But it just, when people say those words and throw them around like that, it makes it sound, to me, it almost is instigating too much of our own sense of victimhood, because it's like, yes, you see, this was just pushed into you and it just happened and you have to obey, and you're under the spell and you have no choice, rather than understanding how, if we weren't to begin with already amenable to that certain, whatever that pleasure is or whatever that need is, it's really not a pleasure, but there's a need in there. There is a need to celebrate in us. And if somebody can take advantage of that need in us to celebrate, well, then, yeah, we're theirs. They can do with us things. So interesting. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't stop say that this has come up. We're kind of at an anniversary of the truckers convoy here in Canada. This was the time that it was happening in, was it 2022, I believe?
I think so, yeah.
And there was an organic side to that. There was, the grandmas and the grandchildren and the everybody's came out and was like, whoa, what's happening? This amazing organic growth. And then, the controlled op are like, oh, I started this. It's my movement and we're doing this and the money's going there. And, so yeah, it's always our culture is is it a weaving or, like a contortion, or it's always going to be a mix of those two elements?
Yeah. And the thing is that the only way that you can see your way out of the mess is being connected to your own emotional and spiritual, and your own body, who you are. Like, if you know yourself, if you know what you're susceptible to, or if you're aware of what need is profoundly missing in your life, then you can be aware if somebody suddenly starts to fulfill that need, and you can be like, oh, wait a second, what happened here? Why am I so into this? And I feel that goes for both. I think that the whole liberal and conservative, they're both cults. I think that they've become cultures. I mean, they're so interchangeable. So if you can, because I'm seeing the same thing happening on both sides, same kind of, emotional, the subject matter and the way of luring, understanding that the conservatives have a different need than the liberals. The liberals have a much more stronger need for self-expression. The conservatives have a much stronger need for, what would you say, for respect, let's say, or many other, you could just pick and choose. But if you are like a social engineer, which we got plenty of those, watching over us, and they have so much information to collect from, including this video, I'm sure. Yep. You can see, oh, so this is what these kind of women think. Aha, let's see what we can invent to get them to do what we want, and spend their money the way we want them to spend their money. Where was I going with this?
Jackie K says that Catholics had to go to church or else. Yeah, that's my sense of it too, without really knowing the history of it. And just the stigma against, like, why aren't you going to church? You might be like, you might be the devil's spawn, or what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm.
Let's break that down. So if that works on you, that means that your need to be included is very important, and has not, we understanding that we do need to be, what's the word, not appreciated, but when you acknowledged, and acknowledged and included. So if you say, well, what are you, how could you not come? That's basically excluding you and luring you to fulfill that need to be included. Like if you look at it from social engineering or psychological manipulation. I know that our government, the CIA and the KGB, all of that, they were well trained, and just our what makes us tick, what needs are we most likely not fulfilling, that would be easy to get us to fulfill, whatever mission they're on.
Exactly. Yeah, that the need to be included is also one of our primary programs. That we don't have inclusion, therefore we need to want it and fear not having it. And there was a time when not being included meant you didn't survive, right? If you
Mhm.
weren't in the culture, it'd be the same here. If you extricate yourself from the public and you have no driver's license, no registrations, no, we talked about this yesterday with Achille Curado, and uh, you become excluded from medicine if you break your leg, or from the
Mhm.
airport if you want to take a trip, or like you don't fit into society now. Without poison injections and my big mouth, I'm not included in my family anymore. And many people chose, oh, what's the, like, how can I stay in that family and have my other beliefs, and how can I sneak around with who I really am. We didn't even have that luxury. I couldn't have decided what I decided. I would have had to go against it if my life depended on it.
Mhm.
And but now we have that, again, illusion of more independence from that. I like what you said also, just about, like, the emotional component cannot be underrated when it comes to the performing arts. This is something, because it's my daily subject and I'm teaching this and I'm always studying it. When I tune in with media, I can see what it wants from me. I'm very sure emotionally, and I'm very sure that our electronics now read us, not just the description of our emotions, but I'm pretty sure they're reading the emotions. Also, with video games, that's how they develop them. This is maybe just all my conspiracy mind, but that they're developing them based on the emotional feedback that they're getting from the gamers. So
Mhm.
if the gamer's adrenaline is high and their excitement and their maybe aggression is coming out, they know that oh, juice, so that we'll keep juicing them. And then the next level of that being that the looshing of the juice. Right. So what quality of loosh and what entities are they potentially feeding them? I'm entertaining this without needing to believe it. Just it just is kind of logical how there are entities that feed off our negative loosh. When bigger little things happen, we get upset, we freak out, we feel frustrated, we cry, whatever kind of thing. And there are beings that feed on that. But as you move up the emotional scale, Joel Schaefer would say, well, there are beings that feed off that too, that we're not the top of the food chain, for example. And even the high emotions are food to something, which is why I recommend getting off of the emotional scale as a default. Whether that's high or low, high's better, because you can actually want freedom from a higher emotion compared to a lower emotion typically. But this, the hijacking of the emotions, and not to say that it's all wrong, but there's, what do you want to add anything or say anything around
Well,
that?
yeah, I mean, I feel like I understand what you're saying. Um, I have a different approach to it, and maybe because I am a performing artist, but I feel that the emotional scale, as you call it, is not something that I want to get off of. It's just something that I want to have full ownership of. And for me, it is a way in, because without the emotional scale, there, that's our access, our language between inside and outside. Our emotions, if you want to call them emotions or feelings, are the way that we can connect to everything around us, to the beauty, to life, to the breath, to the world. Like I think, I don't know if you remember, Dr. Garrett Smith was talking about the research on ashwagandha and kava kava, and how it can basically cause, what is it called, hedonia or something, which is a inability to feel, like lack of feeling. And I know you're not saying that we should have lack of feeling, but to get off the emotional scale, I'm more like, get into the emotional scale. Don't be afraid of it. experience it fully, have ownership of it, so that no one can manipulate it, because it's yours. It's yours. It's part of your. It's like the language that, words are very limited, but feeling isn't. And so to me, that's the language of, the intermediary between us and everything around us, and consciousness itself, and whether we're a simulation or whatever, but just being able to feel the whole field. I need my all my emotional scale, the dark, the light, the medium, the terrified, the ecstatic, the all, the whole dance. So that's my only thought on that.
Right. I do agree that it's a medium, but it's not the only one. So this is not from my direct experience, because I haven't, while I know how to get off the emotional scale, it is different to start with. It's different than that anhedonia, or however that's said. That's definitely a disorder where a drug comes along and obliterates your capacity to connect with your own emotional scale. Like, probably doesn't go away, but it just makes it inaccessible for you. And so this is definitely not what I'm recommending. And it does come through, I'm not sure I would call it ownership, but I get where you're coming from. The emotions are extremely important, because they are a potential door to the greater source of them. And that the spiral of emotion itself is, we don't have a way in our culture to even hear what I'm saying. Like, it's not even a thing. But because the emotions are, and we'll all do our own experiment and see how it turns out in the end, and it's all good. And I'm not recommending anything different to you. But this is not about lacking feeling. This is about probably exactly the same thing that you've said. If I paraphrase the ownership, it's that most people are experiencing their emotional life, and they're getting bashed around by it. They are feeling to be at the mercy of it. They feel like a victim of it, that, oh, I felt good and then I didn't, and then I needed some drugs or medication or those kind of things. And so our relationship with emotions is always two things. We have a strong aversion to our emotional life, because you can romanticize grief, but pain is pain. You can romanticize fear. That's painful. You can romanticize, and I actually started higher on the scale than it starts, but you can romanticize lust and anger and pride and courage and acceptance and peace. But when you drill down and you really look at the depths of them, they are rooted in fear programming, until you have fully decided and seen the instrument for what it is. It's an instrument. It can be picked up, it can be put down, and it can be used for exactly what you said, connection, right? So that you can interact with beings that are having an emotional experience without feeling like you're just a psychopath going, what's your problem? You can actually connect, you can feel with them, you can empathize and have the same experience as a shared kind of communion, like food or anything like that. But it's a medium, but not necessarily our only one. But no need to consolidate our paradigm on that. If we go back to
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that it's just your way in is a way in, and my way in is also a way in. You know what I mean? Like it depends. Different people are drawn to different ways of basically getting to the same place of, being fully present and not being owned by anything. Not being the victim of their own feelings or other people manipulating them, and still being free inside. So I don't, but I'm very strong on, that's my, this is what I enjoy, what I love, is that language that I feel that it is so connected to our body. the sensation and feeling, but sensation that's not just this body, but the body that, the bigger body, the energetic bodies that are part of us. I feel into them and I can feel them. But yeah, so there's no need to, but I hear you.
And so that historical evolution of the stage and the development of the voices. Is there anything more in there that I didn't ask that as a question or anything, but
like
for example, say performing arts have gone from, if we just look at the quality of media at the time when those bad guys, for lack of a better way to say it, decided everyone on earth should have a TV in their home. They decided, oh, this is a powerful medium for our message, therefore this device. So what did they create? What were the performing arts forms? Were like Leave It to Beaver and, the wholesome, family valued. You could go back to that stuff and learn how to actually be in a wholesome, integrous kind of a way. And then fast forward to today, where you have full frontal satanic rituals one pay gate away on your screens. And the trajectory of, for the odd time when I tune into a series, there's a strange trajectory. I notice a pattern with this, that it starts more wholesome, and then it has this curve where it becomes continuously more edgy. Like I watched that Archie comics, some of that series, because why I'd romanticized the Archie comics when I was a child, and it was enough of an interest to do laundry too. And I just thought, some kind of a break. Well, halfway into the season, it starts getting so dark and so like disgusting and so demoralizing and frightening and all of this kind of stuff. Well, that's when I'm like, oh, totally done with that. There'll be a point in between where I can tolerate, tune out, look away, and then I won't. I just won't bother even trying with it. You couldn't have done this to the population in the 60s when all of that stuff was just coming popular. It would have entirely clashed against their values. But it's been this drip by drip by drip kind of transformation.
I think part of that is that, let's say in the 60s, people had different needs. And again, that fine point where, some artists picking up on those needs, like a shaman would around a fireplace, pick up on what's the needs of this village. What are they needing most right now? Is it hope? Is it strength? Is it, so maybe some fine, innocent artists thought like, people really need some template for normalcy and for a healthy family model, right? So they would create these things to fulfill those needs. But then at which point did that suddenly turn and go like, now let's make it so that they will feel like they're missing this, and so that they will never have this kind of family, and then we can fulfill that by some institution that's going to keep families strong, or it could change from genuine fulfillment of a human need to then pushing an agenda. And I think that as technology kept growing, and whatever greed or whatever people had different things that they wanted to achieve in terms of world powers. So as the culture was changing, so were the strategies to, like when you were saying, they make a video game and then they watch to see what reactions people will have. I venture to say that they don't make a video game and watch what reactions people have to what, that they already know exactly what reactions people will have to and the children will, they know what the missing need is. So if people are feeling, if they're squeezing people, putting more taxes or whatever, there will be a stronger need to express justice, which will often come out as anger. So they will then provide that outlet for people, whether it's in a video game or in a what do you call those action adventure type movies, where they're shoot 'em up and destroy them and revenge, is that need for justice. That's what revenge movies are. It's a need for justice. And even though in a movie they make it about something really big that would never happen in your life, but the feeling is the same. If you're feeling like you suddenly have to pay twice as much for your rent, you're going to feel like that's not fair, So I think that the social engineering is really at its peak right now, but in terms of being able to distribute it in larger doses, where you have control of more media, not just television, but newspapers, which nobody reads anymore, I guess, but and literature and books and music, so that's the thing, is the culture keeps changing. So the program has to keep changing. And in a way, part of what the change is that people are getting a little numb. So they need stronger and stronger stimulation. And I turn it off. Like, okay, that's gone too far. I'm not, I don't need that,
I think that's by design. I don't, especially say when you talk about like, oh, the people are angry, they need justice, so we'll feed them something to satisfy that. I think, to the degree that we're not angry, we're just sitting here having a life, but then the media comes along and says, you should be angry about what they're doing in the US because that goes against something or other. I can't even keep track, honestly. I was wishing somebody would explain the whole ICE thing to me, because I don't want to study enough to get the details, what the ins and outs of that are. So I don't get hijacked into any kind of emotional experience around it. But the numbness, this is the thing, that this is the ultimate place that they want us in. I don't think it entirely works in their favor when people are numb, like the way that people went numb to the you're gonna die of a deadly boogeyman virus. They went completely numb to it. They didn't want to hear it anymore. They turned off the TVs. They went into fatigue, because when you spend time in grief and fear and lust and anger and pride, it's so expensive. That is a very high calorie kind of existence to be like that. So then they drop down into apathy, and that's and nothing penetrates. And this is the most easily controlled population of all, would be numb. So that's why ramping up things out of you have to be numb. I was thinking about my aunt who takes her grandchild to movies these days, and I'm like, holy crap, you must be numb as anything to think that that's okay for you to sit there and your grandchild to sit there. I had somebody recommend a series to me, so I checked in, and they said, oh, it's great for the family. I'm like, it's full of violence and gore and blood. And yeah, like,
I want to know which series it was.
What's it called? I'll let you know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's very well done. Very well done. But let's see just a few of the comments here. The feminism came and showed.
I was just going to say, to substitute also, it's more than not, it's desensitized. It's normalizing,
That's what numb is. That's what numb is. When you have no sense of it, you are numb. Yeah. It's apathy. Yeah, it's the lowest human experience you could be in. Feminism is a whole can of worms that definitely was perpetrated through you can see my obvious bias, perpetrated through the performing arts. I've gone back to a few like older things. Again, there's some nostalgic from some earlier time in my life for comfort or something like that. And then you can see how they were really building up the feminism. They were building up long before it was popular. They were building up the whole trans and gay cultures, cults. This is funny. I had a small revelation yesterday about like gay culture. It's not a culture. It won't evolve. It won't evolve. There's like there's no successors in gay culture.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Huh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Welcome, Miss Jenny. And Emil said, Immanuel Kant had many. Is it Kant or Kant? Had many interesting thoughts about people's tendencies towards self-incurred immaturity and herd mentality mirroring.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
just think it's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say about the immaturity, and that's something that performing arts has also reflected, where the audience was less mature, right? They were less streetwise compared to my 19-year-old who grew up knowing everything everywhere. You can see that, and you look at the older arts, the older theater, I'm sure there's many exceptions, but it had that kind of naive, two-dimensional, not super deep emotionally at all, writing a lot of surface kind of appearances, also very important kind of thing, compared to now where, is being real coming back in style or not? Maybe it won't. Maybe that's just, what do you think, Dagmar?
Yeah, I think it has to. I think that's just the pendulum. It's gotta, we're going so far away from being organically human that it's just, we're not gonna want to see big bands. We're gonna want to see just one singer with her guitar on the stage, just human, the vulnerability of just being a human, authentic and original. I think that it's just, I don't think you can kill that need in us. I think that that's just gonna, slowly come in more. I don't know how far this will have to swing, but I think we're pretty far now. Seeing robots going down the street delivering things to people.
Exactly. I know, and say AI, the way that it's so easy for people to create a song out of nothing, and we're seeing those appear. Wasn't there is it Rumble that's decided they will not play, or they won't allow any videos that have AI music or something like that? One of the platforms
Oh,
drew a
wow.
line in the sand. And I don't know about you, but wow, when I hear that music, there can be an instant like, yeah, there's something there. Yeah, well, that is a good tune, and it can be even downright catchy, but it's
Mhm.
empty, and I end up having such a powerful aversion to it.
Yeah. I
So,
tried the AI just to see what it can do writing wise. Oof, it was fascinating but disturbing, because like I always tell my writer friends, AI never had childhood trauma or just humanity trauma, being born into this world, coming from, it cannot help you. But a lot of people go to AI for therapy. They go to it for counsel, for feeling better, for having somebody approve of them, or basically it's just, Psych 101, just everything. Oh, that's a great idea, Dagmar. Oh, isn't that wonderful? I mean, I love when somebody would tell me that, but just to have the AI only play on that part, which is no disagreement, and so
yeah,
that then we are in this world where because if you're going to be an original self, you're going to disagree with many people, even people you love deeply, and that's okay. you know
exactly,
it's like
exactly.
that's what makes being alive and enjoying other people's culture, and this whole thing of cultural appropriation. What do they call it? I forget what it's
That's it.
called. Something like that.
Yeah, you
That's
got it.
like, what is that about? What is that about?
I know that's a
We're
whole other
we're
mind fuck.
we're missing so much juice and fun,
Hmm.
by um, first of all not being okay with who we are, and then not being able to talk to people who are completely different and just be like, oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And new ideas are born if you can have a conversation.
Yeah, totally. So I want to say a few things. I'm missing a few comments in the chat too.
Please.
Yeah, this is Prisoners Inside a Debtor Prison. I'm actually going to be hosting someone. We haven't quite decided on a date or a title around it, but he's really on a mission to. This is one way to look at everything, that we're prisoners in a debtor prison, and there's a lot of ways to blow holes in that too that are much more empowering. So stay tuned for that coming up. Jenny G, welcome. She said it's interesting to see how these offerings for rage, anger align with the astro weather. Also, yeah, that's shockingly can be consistent, even though there's so many different astrologies. I don't know what to tune in with anymore. It hurts to look back at pieces of nostalgia, music, and movies for comfort and see the propaganda so clearly. I know. Yeah, it's never the comfort that you think it will be. It's just like, you know what it is, to be perfectly honest. It's company. And there are times when I need company, like eating. Meals are meant to be shared. And so for me to sit alone and just, there's something wrong with that. So there's, that's I think where media has definitely
Hey,
taken.
Beth, I figured out how to look at the comments. I'm so excited.
Perfect.
I love this. Real people want real music. Yes. Or real and or authentic rather than natural. Oh, that's cool too. This is great. Now I can see everybody's comments. I feel so smart.
And you can even respond if you want in the box below. So yeah, just got this one up for right now. Upcoming astrology also aligns with natural being in style. So yeah, that's a possibility. And yeah, I think people are choosing, when it comes to music, that even that platform would make a position like that, that's got to reflect the views of the people to some degree. Otherwise, that wouldn't happen. And Bandcamp has started that. Okay, perfect. That's good to know. And Jackie said, Amazon are to start using drones to deliver near you. Fascinating. Well, is that better than some foreign guy who doesn't speak the language and pulls his camera out every time he shows up at the door? That seems a little better, sorry to say. But yeah, real or authentic rather than natural. Yeah, natural is a very weaponized word, Jenny, if you haven't noticed. It's in our lexicon. It's really intensely programmed in, and we make natural mean good. It does not mean good. It does not mean good. Everything natural has to be looked at for whatever purpose it is in that moment. Yeah, Nakas, Michelle, you said you like playing with Suno, and you've had to trash several, though. Yeah, say with this isn't the performing arts, but with me, and I'm busy writing a course, high speed right now. Created a 12-week course and have had a very good outline, but now I'm fleshing it out and bringing the creator in me is on steroids, you could say. And I will use AI to proofread my documents, which is amazing because I don't end up with the typos in there. And I won't have to edit something 37 times in order to really get it down, or, to see where grammar's not working. And then you can see, like, oh, it could just write for me. It knows me by now. It knows the culture of my work, because I have been inputting and doing this. And, every time I have a live stream coming up, I'll write the original piece, and then I'll get AI to do some show notes or an Instagram post or an email or something like that. Again, things that used to take me just gobs of time. But you can see that slippery fine line between, like, oh, it could just, make an idea for my live stream for me, and then write the notes, and then write that, so you can see how easy it would be to hand over creative license. And what it's actually done to me is make me more hungry to be the creator, because I see that potential loss in myself. Not everybody's going to use it that way, but I can see, like, this is, I'm writing this. This is mine. This is me. That is, anyway, what I've done with it. Dug my heels. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Yeah, no, it is a slippery slope, because again, it's like we are right now at a place where efficiency has triumphed over beauty. Or it's all about like, you just have to, you're the only one who knows. Like, yeah, the AI can help with many things and summaries, and being, it can be so much more efficient, and it can even come up with great ideas. Like I would ask it some ideas about a scene and it would come up with them, but I always felt kind of, I don't know, even if it was a good idea, I felt like, eh, I just didn't quite feel like it came out of, you know, like it came out of that part of me. Like the AI is the part of me that wants to impress. Like it's the part of me that wants to come off like, hey, I know what I'm doing, that doesn't want to be seen in my mistakes or in my, foibles and misdirections. The AI just can make me look really good. And from having written a lot, I know that that's the kiss of death. Trying to be good is never gonna satisfy me. I always think like, at my last breath, as I'm laying there or standing there or dancing or whatever, that if I were to think like, was I glad that I had that help from the AI that made my screenplay a big success, or how did that feel? So that's how I kind of balance it out. Like on my last breath, would that feel good, or would that feel or does it not matter? And if it doesn't matter, then okay. But if it feels like, oh, then like, I don't think I'm going to do it. But it's different for everything and for everybody, like the young people, like my cousins, they're young and they have a different relationship with this AI. So I'm in no position to judge them, and they're intelligent, interesting people, so, and like you said, there's good uses of it. But again, if you don't know yourself, or you're weak in certain areas, you can end up being, in a way, like dependent, but on the AI. Which, if I'm going to be dependent, I'd rather be dependent on a person.
Right.
Which
I totally get it. And we won't end up dependent. Why? Because they're gonna take it away from us. I know this for sure. Like I'm literally just enjoying a kind of honeymoon at this stage, and they're gonna go, oh, you're gonna need fingerprint and a facial recognition and some injections and a manifesto repetition or some kind of vow to the state, or this is not. This is just the honeymoon where they're going like, oh, free for everybody. It's like, no, if it's free, then we are the product. But I've always, it's the same way. Like some people would not want anything to do with Amazon, but Amazon allows me to print my book one at a time. So when someone orders one, I can send it to them. I didn't have to buy 3,000 books or 5,000 books and put them under my bed where they don't fit. And this is a beautiful thing that's allowed me to put 500 books out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, that's, to me, it's the motive behind it. What are you using it for? What are you doing it for? Like public, writing is one thing, and the imperfections and all of that kind of thing. I wouldn't ever use AI to perfect, but I would use AI to publish, because of the nightmare that in reality is as a fully manual process. I would have had a much easier time publishing my book. So
I love what this person was saying about listening to AI generated music versus listening to live music is like watching a video or picture versus being there in person. The feeling is totally different. Yeah, it's a completely different universe. A film is very different than being sitting in a theater. It's like in a theater, I feel you have a way more full-bodied experience, that whatever's happening in that space, it's happening to all of you. Whereas in film, it's just kind of like beaming into your mental sphere, which then can trickle and affect you emotionally. But it's just like, I'm sure when I see you in person, Beth, we'll have a completely different experience of each other. It'll be like, oh my God, she's got feet, and you can tell so.
My
Because
feet
I
in the
recently,
slippers. I got too many layers. I can't get my leg up here. Funny. Hilarious.
yeah, so that's a really beautiful point. And I love what this other person said about Antarctica. There's a mega AI in Antarctica, easy cooling for computing. Is that why the presidents all go visit? Kind of a wild thought. Yeah, that came up recently. I like that wild thought. I love wild thoughts. Thought experiments are so, I think, so healthy to just go there. Just contemplate it, and go into that scenario.
Yeah, this is interesting also, Emil, the slowing down in life. Part of me completely agrees with that, and that's why I will stop all the shows and I will go and I will sit quiet and I will be inside, when I could maybe have some music on or something, and I just want things to reflect in here, not always be bouncing off something out there. And when you get into a life of, say, performing arts, production at any level that involves a schedule and commitments and a level of exchange, a formal level of exchange, then to me speed is such a blessing. There's something that is so I'm not anti slow, but I'm not anti fast. And then they're both. It's a sine wave, right? I go really fast and then I go really slow, and I go really fast and then I go really slow. So I don't mind the speed.
Can I add something to that?
Mhm.
What I mean, I always think of slow time is soul time, and a fast time is much more of my mind time, and I can do both. But sometimes I feel like the world keeps trying to speed me up. So when I'm by myself, or if I'm working on something, I purposely just slow myself down, and different things come in. I make it harder, like I handwrite instead of type sometimes, just so you have access to both, because the speed is great too, like what you were saying, Beth. Sometimes you just have to put yourself under the pressure, and I produce great things with speed because I can bypass a lot of chatter that way. But sometimes I need to expand into something, and I have to go into the slow soul time and go into the sub basement of my sub basement, and just allow that a different rhythm. It's just
Totally.
tonal dynamics of living, not just art. You need that in art, but also in living. You need to have variety of energetics moving through your life, just to stay, like, to have a fully alive instrument.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. Let's see what's else on my list here. So this is something that's maybe yeah, I don't know, just say like around performing artists, and when I think of them as as a group, without breaking out the nuances of there being like the multiplicity of every kind of person in there, there is a stereotype of pain and suffering and the tortured artist. I recently again saw Amadeus and watched how he was a very, like died young with a very kind of spiky experience. Although he was portrayed as being excessively happy, but dying young, there's like some evidence for that being not necessarily the case. Who knows? I'm projecting all over it, but that archetype of pain and suffering around many performers, say like the dance world, it was a really good example where if you go to a performance and you see the dancers on stage, and then they look beautiful and perfect and wonderful, and then they don't have that. Where was I going with this? So, but behind the scenes is what I'm talking about. In the real life of those dancers, they are not happy. They are anorexic. They have like punishing states of perfection that they're trying to reach, and that's being encouraged by whomever is, and they're addicts, and they're smokers, and they're not happy people, and even beyond that professional division, when you go into the younger ones coming up in less professional divisions, they're mirroring that kind of same thing, just from the little bit that I saw from people I knew involved in it. And so this is something that is injected, right? You've got the persona of the performance that gives delight and joy and entertainment, and then you've got this blackness behind the scenes once they're off stage, and you see the bleeding feet, and you see that, right, like that. No dancer gets on their toes and ends up with, they end up with like lifelong awful injuries, and that kind of. So there's this huge contrast between those two things. And is that a mirror of our culture? Is that mirroring who we actually end up being in our own culture, or is this a sickness?
See, what you, if you didn't say dancers or artists or whatever, you could just say any person. I mean, to me, you're describing pretty much any human being. Is that, we may, because performance is a part of our life. It's just a child, from the time we're children to the time we die, we are constantly shifting ourselves in with different people. We become different with different people. We become different for different tasks. There's a
but it's stereotypical. So here's the thing: when it comes out as a stereo, you could say the same thing as physicians. They're the healers on the front line giving you drugs, but they're the addict, but using their key all the time to get into the fentanyl cabinet or whatever, if that's the one they go for. I don't know. So there's certain stereotypes that persist throughout culture, that it's known for that. You don't necessarily get that behind the scenes with accountants, although I think they're a really dysfunctional group. I finally have a good one to shout out.
I mean, if you were to study this, I bet you would find that they may not have made it to the big hit list of stereotypes because their professions aren't that interesting or dramatic. But any dramatic profession where you're saving lives or bringing beauty, which would be the arts or the sciences, right? Those are basically the two. They're fulfilling two powerful human needs. The need to survive in science and medicine and all of that, and then the need for higher meaning in the arts and performance and beauty. It's the elevated need for mourning, all of that kind of stuff. So, but I guarantee you that the ones who are raising chickens and are really nice to their chickens may be real bastards to their babies, so, or something, or they may be that paradox. And I don't know, there's
You're
something
familiar with the stereotype, right? Like you must be, and you're immersed in it, and you've been part of that world. That you look at, say, Angelina Jolie, who you had some earlier, you did some work on the stage with her. There's a good video on your YouTube, and the kind of world that she ended up part of, and maiming her own body in the name of some sort of like medical protection, safety against a disease, and the darkness that I mean, who knows what we're hearing. It's really impossible to say anything, make any claims there. But Hollywood is a good example, where it's the darkness behind this is extreme. And
it's extreme in the sense that it's very obvious and visible if something slips, let's say, you think this one actor is this great, he plays all these great good father roles, and then you find out he's nothing, he's got 3 other women, or he's doing some horrible, horrific things, pedophilia or whatever. So it becomes visible, and it's something we can all look at. But
right, they don't say director's couch for nothing, right? What that's for.
Yeah,
everybody knows. You just say 2 words and boom, everybody knows.
Yeah. No, I've been there. I've been faced with it, face to face. And my mother, who was a physician, was also face to face with the doctor's couch. In her profession too. She had to deal with all kinds of things that could have taken her to a better position if she had agreed. So I guess
I think there's still something, because there's, compared to the now this the need to perform, the motivation to perform is that can be in every arena of your life, right? Like whether it's professional, sexual, the word performance comes up around sex, that becomes a performance. This part of ourself is an interesting development in culture. That is it truly inherently our nature to perform, meaning put on something that is in some cases meant to hide what's behind?
Well, I think that, I don't look at this as something unhealthy. I look at it as we are constantly feeling each other. And there is a great purpose to hiding certain things and then revealing other things, and at different times to different people, because otherwise you're just a blob of things just coming in and out. There is a refinement to being human, and it has to do with being aware of the other. There are times when, and it's up to the person decides, and sometimes you don't decide. You just automatically, when you are in the company of a newborn, you suddenly, something in you changes, and you're going, hello, and there's suddenly something, you become like the Glenda the Good Witch. The moment you're in the presence of a newborn, you'll be like, beautiful child, you're like, just something happens, or you're in the presence of, you walk by a person who's laying on the street begging for money, and they look like on their last breath. Everything in you become a different person for that moment. So I feel that tonal dynamics of living and of art, but it's like, to me, there's not that much difference between living and making art, except when you're making art, you're conscious of living. You have a craft. You have a craft that takes you into creating something that you can offer to the world, whether it's your acting, whether it's your writing, whether it's your singing. You're giving something because you want to give something. So the moment you start, let's say, singing, you're yourself, but there's something else there too, because you're offering something from a different place in your body, and it's coming through, it's resonating in your bones in a different way than when you just go, I'll have a pizza, please, or, give me 3 of those and 2 of the, you're a different person when you're off, going to the store and picking up your cup of matcha tea. Hopefully not that, but, so I think that there's, I see this big round table that we all are, that is our table, and we have everybody coming to breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and everybody eats a different way and has a different view of, like looking at life through a different angle of the diamond. Everybody has a different way of seeing things, and that's why we can spend so much time alone, if you do, and which we have, since 2020. A lot of people became more solitary than before. You get to see, wow, you're kind of interesting. I'm sure other people have also found, It could be interesting or annoying or like, okay, a little neurotic, aren't you, or whatever. But there's room. The table is big. So I just see the Hollywood people as a magnification of that obvious thing that we all are. And of course, my God, I mean, Hollywood and Washington, D.C., it's, they're like pulses of that draw people who are, on the one hand, extremely open and just longing to connect. And then they become, like we described in the beginning of this talk, where you first come in with this, you're just being a human and you want to dance around the fire and drink wine. And then suddenly you're dancing around the fire and somebody else is providing the wine and you're dancing and you don't know why you're dancing. And, that desire, that need that you had is being taken over by something that's pushing itself into you. And so, before you know it, you're under a spell. You've bought a story. And that's what I think culture really is. It's story making. We create a story around something. We materialize something because we want it to be like a sect or like a institution or a group. We group. This is this group. This is this group. Again, I think it's just fulfilling the longing to connect and to be with like-minded people. And how easy it is for anybody watching this going, ooh, we could get these to connect and then these to connect. And then we're really going to get them to, rip each other's, tear at each other. And this is great. And then we'll make a lot of money because, they're going to need repair and they're going to need trauma help. And, oh, we can do this and we can provide them with these drugs and they can then have these things that they can, it just seems like a domino effect that if you know the game, and I think whoever they is, they understand what makes us tick, and that's gold. And most people don't take the time, but like, that's what you do in your work. You help people to really know themselves deeply, and to take ownership, of, who they are and their life. And so then it's much harder for somebody to come in and put a straw in them and suck out their energy, for some other benefit.
Right. Yeah. And back to the performance, there's something that since I was a child, I was able to understand myself about when a performer would come on stage and they would sing and they would execute their art and their craft. And I could hear from a few different levels. I could hear that they had some skill on an instrument or some skill in singing with their voice, or they had a good band or good composition. And then there was the level of and I could just use the word authenticity that I would also be reading. And so the very best musicians, the best productions, the best performances, that the most dynamic or live, or by many, many standards, they were like the best. And to me, they could be very, very empty because there was too many layers of their persona in performance between me and them. And then you would get the crappier singer and the crappy production and the something, but the realness and the ability to connect and touch that is, and I think that's where the less polished art can actually be much more creative in that respect, because it's easier to enter into for other people. They don't think of you being somehow far away, but it's the idea from my side is that creation could be pure, come from its source, and be so authentic that it's maybe not performance anymore. It's not persona. It's not some overlay. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you air your crap for everybody to hear. They need all the details of your life, but there won't be this, I never worry when I come on a live stream, how am I going to be? Are they going to like me? Am I going to get the views? Or is anybody going to work with me. Is like I don't have that because I don't need to be anybody different in front of this screen as I do in the rest of my life. And so this is a very big freedom. So there's a lot of people have been sucked into this idea that it's I mean, it's different in the performing arts. It's different. Like you're playing this character, and that's who you have to be. So but still within that can be your own authentic spirit that's not afraid and concerned and trying to negotiate, right? Like the biggest shadow of the performer is the want for love and approval. One of the core root programs, the biggest pain, one of the 4 biggest pains you could ever experience in your entire life. And that's why the industry can hijack them and can make them sit on the couch or lay on the couch, or can make them go out of integrity and sell their soul for the art because of this hunger that stands between them and some authentic creation.
Yeah, what you're describing is what in writing we call the deep voice. And, being in the deep voice is basically you having access to all yourself. So, you could call it acting or performing or pretending, but really it's the freedom within, the depth within. I mean, we're talking at a very high level here, of what you're describing. Absolutely. That authenticity that's where you're going with all of this. But I'm just saying that when you're so, like, you can go from talking like this to suddenly you can make a joke and you can say something really stupid, right? I mean, or just feel like, hey, I can do that, right? So you are slipping into something different, but it's still coming from your depth and from your fearlessness. It's not coming from, oh, I have to hide, like
there's no way to say what people are doing, because it will be contextual in every single moment, and really only they can know. You can get a sense of it, just like why did I have a sense of one performer knowing that they're more real than the other? Why do I know that? Just because I've got a sense perception for that kind of thing. And yeah, so I don't know if there's anything more that you wanted to bring forward about this. One of the points was just around people's attention. This is like, to me, an honor that anybody would come and give attention this way, not so I could feel good about myself, but so that this connection could be made. That what you've said several times. And to me, that's the goal of braving getting out and being seen and being heard, that I have the opportunity to connect with people that I would never otherwise. And this is like amazing for me. I interview people so I can connect with them that they might never otherwise answer my email if there's nothing, that I could offer them. In terms of an audience or opportunity or whatever it is that draws people, that they just want to share. When I listen to somebody like, we'll just blow a little smoke up of Michael, Conspiracy Music Gurus, but darn, I just lost your first 2 names. Alex Michael, thank you. When I hear him sing, I get that it's him. And even on the interview, he said how he has to sing in a different accent than his own native language. So that right there could be seen as some kind of persona. It's not. It doesn't disturb this authentic. It's something else. It's not. It might be carried on the medium of the voice. It might be carried on the medium of the emotions or something. It's intangible. You can barely. Why do I know he has it? I just know he does.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to put into words something that is so hard to actually put into words, because just the word performance has because truly anybody whose work I respect, any actor, or including myself, when I'm working and acting, the only time that I know that I'm on point is when it feels like I'm not acting.
Mm-hmm.
I have to. It's just like um, it's just being connected to as many parts of yourself as possible allows that, even if you're doing it in another language, let's say, right? But it still allows the rooted, I keep going like this, that it's like connected, it's plugged in to your core, and you can feel when it's the truth or when you're trying to hide something. It's a different world. But then as an actor, let's say in my field, you have to also know and also deeply love and understand and appreciate the part of us that wants to hide things. So it's so important for me. A big part of my work is that I have learned to fall in love with the masks that humans wear, and when those moments when humans take them off. So same thing in writing. Most of the writing, you'll have characters will have their masks on, and will never say what we really mean. That's the interesting dialogue. We will always be talking about something else, and then we'll have that one moment in the film or in the play or whatever that we actually say what we mean, and the audience can feel it, and they'll be like, so it's just to see the dance of being human and how freaking hard it is. Especially as we're going into this more and more technical world, you just have to have so much adoration, love, and respect for every person that's doing, whether they're, whatever, completely different beliefs than yours, but to understand that no human being ever sees themselves as the villain in their life. And that goes for everyone, but we are villains to other people, or even villains to ourselves, but we don't see ourselves that way. You can be your biggest enemy. Huh?
Until you do.
Until you do.
Yeah,
Right.
but not commonly so, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the arts, you have to have an awareness, exactly what you said, that until you do. And then the until you do is like the climax of the piece or the song or whatever. It's a way to make art have a purpose, so that when somebody hears that, they have a moment where they get to feel their mask and then off with the mask. But not be like, oh God, I'm rid of the mask, but just be like, oh, that urge for that mask, it comes from a beautiful place in me. My desire to put that mask on, I was just trying to, when you understand the hidden motives of what we really need in the world, which is so hard to say in words. We don't know what we need moment to moment. Most people don't, but when you can do that dance, it's just, it makes life more fun.
Fun is good. Yeah. So two more thoughts that I'm wondering if that will evolve in culture, the degree to which we get these, that it's the glimpses of the authentic artist, and it's different when you're a totally independent artist and you don't depend on any actual institution. Then you're going to have a different relationship with it. You're going to have less freedom to be yourself when you're, when you start adding in things like, oh, this is how I make my living, this is how I survive, then it's different. And the other point that I wanted to, so I'm just wondering if that's going to change. If there, now probably the only way that it would change is if there was a market for that, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the professional performing arts, there has to be a market. Like if you've got, you got a show, you got a film, you got a play, whatever it is. If it doesn't have an audience, it doesn't even exist, right? It's in and of itself, as in its own function, it can't do its job. Right? It's got to have, you got to have the performers and the audience. You got to have the book and the reader. And so I'm curious if this element would evolve, that if the people became more hungry for what's real and what's true in humanity, right down to the core, then would we get more of that rather than, the movement in and out? It reminds me of the baby boomers. They like they'll have a moment of lucidity, and then it's gone, and it's some new, don't just touch fire, better back away from that fire. And will that evolve? It's pure conjecture, but I hope so.
Yeah, interesting. Will it evolve? uh, I don't know. Ask your question again, because you went to so many different places, and I was tracking with so many different thoughts. Say that again.
Yeah. Yep. So it's that, like the construct of the art, how you said it has these moments of the deep voice, and then you move out of that and it's not less authentic. And then the mirror of culture, that if this is one, I've always been the offending person who comes in and has a value for the real, and then they don't like it, especially my parents' generation. They just don't like it. They don't like you being real. They don't like you expressing
Okay. So,
who you
yeah.
are and where you're coming from. And then so art has reflected that. And then there's the structure and maybe the rules or the container of the art, that it has this deep voice, but it also has all these superficial, distracted, like you touch the hot stove pain of being real. So now you gotta, that's over, pretend that didn't happen, kind of thing. It's a girl can dream. I'm having a fantasy of a world
Yeah.
where there's a higher value on that, and we didn't necessarily see the other, because otherwise maybe it would be unrelatable now where people are at, but in the
Well,
future this could be.
okay, yeah, I remember now. It's coming to me. I feel that on the scale that you're talking about, like the world, right?
The performing arts. No,
The
I'm still on topic. Still on
right.
topic.
But I'm we have this tendency to think in the whole culture being influenced. But right now there are, I don't know how many people are listening or how many will listen, but it's happening right now. We're doing that. So there is an audience. Like for me, if I do a show for 3 people, to me, those are people.
Yeah,
And
that's an audience. Exactly.
it's having an effect. It's alive. It is happening, and maybe the whole concept, I feel it's a hypnotic state of the scale of something, that it's big, that it's like
Doesn't have
world.
to be. No,
Yeah, it does not have to
not at
be.
all.
So for me, it's already very real. I always have an audience, for what I write or when I perform. They're there. It's alive and well in the moment. And whether it catches on fire and becomes, where millions and millions of people will want to hear or participate or watch, that's okay too. But that doesn't mean that it's finally going to be making it to the culture. It is already in there. You know what I'm saying? Like I think one of the most important things we could be doing as human beings is having this kind of a conversation where it's a meta conversation. We're talking about things that, being aware of what is happening, and in real time in life right now, we are having a moment, and we're blessed to be sharing it with other people. So this is a culture. This is a story. We're creating a story as we're talking. I'm making discoveries, that I did not have before we started this. So we're writing. We're spell casting. We're spelling. We're creating 2 women having a conversation about something that both of us consider very important. And I think this is, this is the creatives talking. And I want more of this. There was something somebody said that I love about sympathetic resonance or sympathetic vibration. The Augustine, he plays the guitar, and it sounds like you ladies are talking about sympathetic resonance. Yeah, and it's like, even though whoever is actually right now live listening is one thing, but I feel like after you shut this down, and it's done, there's still going to be a wave of this conversation that's, in the ethers. And I don't know how I know that. I just feel that, and I trust that. I feel that. Like sometimes I can feel conversations coming from, other times, and I'm like, how did I get that? Or in my dreams, I'll be feeling the thought patterns of someone else or a group of people. And so in any case, I'm just saying this is really exciting.
So I'll just, this comment that I have up on the screen right now. So someone who plays the guitar, it sounds like you ladies are talking about sympathetic resonance or sympathetic vibration. And yep, that's a phenomena. The emotions themselves do that. I just wrote an article on emotional chords. And it's not something that you need to evoke. It comes with it. If you experience apathy, it has a certain kind of peace in it. Peace also has apathy in it. If you are experiencing grief, it has acceptance in it. And acceptance also has an emotional note of grief. Fear resonates with courage. It's why you can't just hang on by your fingernails to courage. It has that fear right inside it. Lust and pride also are chords together. Anger, as far as I can tell, is the only one that doesn't chord up. It only resonates back at itself. So that's a kind of interesting thing.
That's interesting. See, I found that anger always for me resonates with deep grief.
Mm-hmm.
And with,
yeah, you can use anger as a way to suppress the grief, but in terms of these emotional chords, it's a different. I shouldn't geek out on it because it's a more subtle kind of a thing. But a lot of people, they go into anger because it's easier than grief. So then they'll go up the scale because that's a more powerful, more empowered emotion. And but it's not that grief is a more authentic emotion. It's you're just scaling. You're up and you're down. You're wherever you're more comfortable.
Would this make sense to you? The way I interpret it is like when I teach acting, I make sure the actors can experience that every emotion has every emotion in it. In other words, but it's maybe not as resonant as how you're pairing it off, but so that actors feel free that if they're in the midst of mourning, that they can jump straight into even sexuality, or rage can come in, or laughter can come in, that they don't have to be expressed, but that they're present. Like
it's
Anthony.
It's a movement. It's a movement. It's a scale. It's an ever available medium that we can experience through. So yes, and this is exactly right. Excitement, anxiety. Right? So I'll get clients that get excited about working with me. What's the first thing that I'm going to do? I'm going to help them release the excitement. And that might seem stupid. That might seem like, oh, well, then they're going to go to not caring and not wanting and not being excited about this. That's right. I don't want them excited. Why? Because I know that there's fear and programming underneath that. And so I'd rather them choose from a sober place, not being all excited, not being all activated by this high emotion, but from the being able to choose from freedom. Freely choosing, not being pushed and pulled around by the emotions. Jenny also said, words are my not so humble, or words are, in my not so humble opinion, this is a quote, our most inexhaustible source of magic. capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. Remedying it. That's a hard one. Dumbledore.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting. I mean, I guess we're going to the same place. Just, I mean, and because of, I'm coming not from helping people heal. I'm coming more from, like, the performing area. But it's like those the emotions are the way. Yeah, like I would go into the excitement so that to move through it so that it's actually free, and then, including the anxiety, and then move through that, and then have access to both, like take both to the furthest edge, and then come out the other end. So then, but it's the same thing, because then at the end you're at ease and at peace, because you've taken ownership of something, and you're not afraid that it's going to kill you or destroy you, and it's you've increased your capacity to experience intensity rather than just, so that's the way that you build the craft of acting, is you keep increasing your capacity to hold intensity. So pain no longer, it feels like pain, it's just intensity. So you're not bypassing anything, you're just allowing it to move through, and you embody it. You embody it through your voice and your body and or whatever, dialogue, or interesting. Yeah,
very cool. All right. Well, I think we may have exhausted, and we got to 2 hours. It's funny how that I always think, oh, we're not gonna go 2 hours this time.
I thought for sure it was going to be a short one too.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's deep. Culture is deep. I know the series. It's taken on like a very massive subject. The next one coming up, by the way, is with Maria West. Become friends with her on Facebook, and she speaks out very loudly, and people have a lot of opinions about what she says. She's still got a lot of feminists in her world, even though she's quite anti-feminist. So we're going to talk about really specifically the culture of feminism and what's that done to us, and in the theme of the king hero and the damage that get done along the way to women and to men. So I'm looking forward to that. I believe February 6th coming up next Friday. And is there anything you would like to share about your classes that you do, your writing work, or anything like that?
Yeah, I teach method writing. If anybody is interested, just email me. I can put it in the chat, right?
You could, but it'll get eaten alive. So you could say it or write it without the @ so a bot couldn't pick it up.
Oh.
So
okay.
What would it be? Dagmar @
No, it would just be Stansova, my last name, at AOL. STANSOVA at AOL.com. The Old People's Network.
Okay. Yeah. So then I did it like this. If you ever write your name in a publicly available place where bots can pick it up, your email address, that's a safer way. I know I've had emails.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So it doesn't kill you.
Well, I'm so advanced now.
There you go. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for joining me today. And for anyone out there that wants to get into the deeper recesses, geeking out on consciousness and psychology and the structure of your own inner workings for the sake of freedom, you can find me at bethmartins.com. You can do a quiz at my website in 10 minutes, find out an archetype with some information for you, some data, some self-awareness, even if it's for some reason not you. Although the reflections that I get, the feedback that I get from the majority of people doing it, they do learn something about themselves in the process. So that's always fun. We think of ourselves as the most I don't know if entertaining is the right word, but the most compelling subject of all. As soon as it's about you, they're like, "Oh, I'm in." I love that stuff. So that's good. But it's the meta on the meta and the meta, and the self-reflecting on the self-reflecting, which I love personally. That's my favorite game. Good. I'm glad.
love reading everybody's comments too. Yeah.
Now that you can see them, I know it's like a new game. Exactly. Before you were at the mercy of me putting them up. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
And thank you, Beth, for having this culture and this space open for the
cult.
conversation to happen.
Well, private little cult. I have always said that I have a small cult following. Like I've just always had that. Yeah.
Glenda the Good Witch.
There you go. All right, everyone. Lots of love for now. I will play you out. Bye.
Oh, my true guide, Lord and supporter of all, forever free from identity. Be well, I'm dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Ipadrashta numanta, Shibarata Gupta, Maheshwara, Paramatme Dijabiyokto, Deyasmin Purusha Para, Deyasmin Purusha Para, Deyasmin Purusha